I've never spoken publicly before about any of this. Never really fully healed from any of what happened. It's like waking up every morning and having the same phone call.
911, what is the address at your emergency?
911 call came in October 2nd, 2017. It was called in as a welfare check.
Something happened at my ex-husband's house over the evening, and my two children came to my house this morning. Okay, and what did they tell you exactly? Their dad's gone, their older sister's gone.
Where are we, officer? Set the scene for us.
This is Benson Street, and for me, this is just another welfare check. But we don't know what we're walking into.
What is your ex-husband's name? Aaron Fryer.
I learned that he was a good guy. He was a good dad.
What is your daughter's name?
My oldest daughter's name is Ellen Fryer.
How old is she?
She's 15.
Ellie was in the marching band. Very bright, very intelligent.
With the older daughter missing, it was very suspicious. We didn't really know how suspicious it was until we saw what we saw when we got here.
Not for police. Not yourself if you're in here.
We clear the house, and in the living room, based on the blood splatter, there was a serious assault, probable murder that occurred.
So time was of the essence in this
Absolutely.
case.
Time is always of the essence, you know it. The only information I had was from the patrol officers and what Sierra was able to tell us on scene.
I remember waking up in the middle of the night.
We know at around 5:30 that Sierra heard the glass breaking.
I just started listening to try and understand what was happening.
I was certain she had heard the assault, but she hadn't realized that.
Thank God she didn't walk out and interrupt this thing.
I was very terrified.
Based on what she had seen at the house, she knew somebody wasn't okay. She went over to the couch. She felt something wet, and when she pulled her hand up, it was covered in blood.
I just was in like a state of shock.
Sierra could not locate her father, Aaron, and her teenage sister, Ellie. We treated it as a missing person, serious assault, until we know otherwise. Everyone was out looking. There was also a potential that this was what we could refer to as a no-body homicide. And those cases are always tough to work.
As of right now in my family, there are 2 family members missing. It's still like an open wound every day.
The quiet city of Medford, Oregon, was shaken by Maggie Fryer's desperate 911 call in the early morning hours of October 2nd, 2017.
I don't know where my ex-husband or my oldest daughter is.
I understand that.
Something happened at the house. Something happened over there.
Maggie Fryer's ex-husband, Aaron Fryer, and their 15-year-old daughter, Ellen, nicknamed Ellie, were missing.
My concern is for the both of them. We don't know where they are.
You can only imagine all the things that were running around in my mind. I didn't know who was dead and who was alive.
When Medford police officer Logan Boyd arrived at Aaron's house, he found that gruesome scene.
There's blood everywhere.
Blood-spattered walls, shattered glass, and a trail of blood to nowhere.
See, it starts from there and kind of goes all the way out in the dirt.
It goes out towards the carport.
Yeah, that's not good.
This led investigators to notice what also was missing: Aaron Fryer's car, seen here on a neighbor's security camera leaving the Fryer home around 5:30 that morning.
We're kind of dealing with what I would describe as like a two-headed monster.
An all-hands-on-deck call went out to every Medford police detective, including Detective Bill Ford.
We didn't know at that particular time whether this was a missing person case or a kidnapping. We just didn't know.
Detective Shannon Reynolds, Bill Ford's colleague and wife of 20 years, had a different take.
In my mind, I automatically assumed that the 15-year-old daughter was the victim of a homicide.
So a case like this, where did this one sort of fit in?
Probably one of the most interesting, heinous crimes I've seen in my career.
Investigators hoped Ellie's younger sister, 11-year-old Sierra, might shed light on the unknown. Detective Reynolds, who specializes in crimes against children, was tasked with interviewing her.
Sierra wasn't, like, outright crying, but you could tell she was worried.
Who was she worried about?
Her dad and Ellie.
I try not to really think about that time a lot, but
Sierra, 18 years old at the time of this exclusive interview, still finds it difficult to speak about the day her father and sister vanished.
I was, just a child, and sorry.
The second of 3 girls, Sierra says she loved being in the middle.
I get to be an older sister and a younger sister, so I get like the best of both worlds. I like the connection and the bonds that we have.
Sierra says her older sister Ellie loved music and could play many instruments. A skill Ellie seemed to have picked up from their father.
One time, he tried to teach me how to play the drums, but I wasn't very good at it, so.
In 2016, Sierra's parents, Maggie and Aaron, ended their marriage. Sierra says the divorce took a toll on her and her sisters.
It affected us a lot. It was actually not a very great experience for everyone involved.
Sierra says that when her parents separated, her dad moved into that small 2-bedroom house. Maggie and Aaron shared custody, and the girls would stay with their dad every other weekend. In September 2017, Sierra decided to live with her dad full-time.
I want to be around him and fill my life with him.
Then, around 5:30 a.m. on October 2nd, 2017, the Fryer family was forever broken. Sierra was asleep in the bedroom she shared with her younger sister.
I woke up and it was just pitch black. I remember waking up to like a dinging noise over and over and over again. Then I heard glass shatter and I heard the fight that occurred.
The sound was coming from the living room.
So then what does she hear? Because she really is sort of an ear witness to all that happened.
She heard her dad yell the F word. She heard dragging. She heard things being moved.
After that, it was completely silent.
Did she have any idea what was going on at the time?
No. She was frightened enough to stay in her room until she felt like it was okay to come out.
When Sierra finally did come out, she found that horrific scene.
It had to be so scary, though.
So scary.
Sierra told Detective Reynolds that before leaving her room, she had seen something out of her bedroom window.
She could see people walking back and forth.
Sierra saw 2 young men outside of her dad's house. One was a person Sierra didn't know. The second was someone Sierra immediately recognized. It was Gavin McFarlane.
He was Ellen's boyfriend at the time. This was her big love. According to her, he was a great guy, but according to my parents, he was not a great guy.
Sierra insinuated this was a little bit of a forbidden love. Dad had forbade Ellie from seeing Gavin.
This was the break investigators had been hoping for.
Once we have a name, Gavin McFarlane, now we got a picture. Now we know who we're looking for.
The search for Aaron and Ellie Fryer, and now Gavin McFarlane, was on.
We probably had 70, 75 people out on the streets of Medford.
Ellie and Aaron's phones were found in the house. Investigators now began tracking Gavin's phone.
We started getting cell phone tower hits up in the East Medford area.
Patrol officers immediately headed in that direction.
A patrol sergeant locates the car. That was huge.
As the officers approached Aaron Fryer's vehicle, they realized that something wasn't right.
We could see there was blood on the outside of the bumper that had been dripping down. When this trunk is opened up, there is large amounts of blood. I mean, it is soaked into the carpet.
But no Aaron and no Ellie. But the car was still warm, so the police knew they were close.
We had tons of people up there driving around looking for them.
And then just an hour later, investigators couldn't believe who they found next.
Their dad's gone. Their older sister's gone.
Then, just 4 hours after that 911 call reporting her missing, Medford police found Ellie Fryer. She was alive, seemingly unharmed, and had been walking down a busy street with Gavin McFarland.
They're walking down the sidewalk.
In plain sight.
Plain sight, so now we know Ellie's safe.
Which made two things clear. Aaron Fryer was the victim. And based on all that blood in his car and at the house, time was quickly running out to find him.
We had Aaron out there either seriously injured or deceased.
Walking along with Gavin and Ellie was someone investigators hadn't been looking for.
Do you have ID with your name on there?
No, I don't. I hardly ever carry my ID around.
Okay.
He turned out to be Russell Jones,
Thanks. Have a seat real quick.
a friend of Gavin's.
I won't make it hard on you.
All right.
Russell had apparently made an impression on Sierra Fryer, says Detective Shannon Reynolds. He matched the description of that second young man she saw at her father's house that morning.
So she got a really good look at this person.
Yes.
Investigators now had a witness placing Gavin and Russell at the crime scene. Detective Ford says he wasn't sure what to make of Ellie being found with them.
That doesn't mean that Ellie's involved in something.
But Ford says that she, Gavin, or Russell might hold the key to finding Aaron.
Ellie, Gavin, and Russell are separated, detained, and transported to the Medford Police Department for questioning.
Hi. Hello.
Detective Stephanie Jackson was tasked with getting Ellie Fryer's account of the previous 24 hours.
So what have you been up to today?
I haven't been home, and now I'm really concerned about what's been going on.
Where were you?
Out.
Ellie was saying everything had seemed normal when she left her father's house for a long walk.
And you were walking down the street, it sounds like, today? Who were you with?
I was with my friends.
According to Ellie, she had run into those friends, Gavin and Russell, only by chance, not long before being spotted by police.
And so everybody is really concerned because we actually don't know where your dad is right now.
It's really disturbing to hear. Maybe he was looking for me.
We are very worried about your dad.
So am I.
Ellie was saying she had no idea where her father was or what happened at the house.
So where did all the blood come from in your house?
I don't know.
Around that time, Detective Ford was preparing to interrogate the other two detainees. Strategically, he decided to let Gavin wait in a holding cell and began interviewing Russell.
Well, spin around in your chair there and face me so I can talk to you. He's a talker, very, very talkative. So I kind of knew he would have a hard time keeping his mouth shut.
Yeah, I have nothing to hide. So.
Okay, good.
Russell was ready to talk, but he wanted something first, a cigarette.
I talk better when I have a cigarette.
Detective Ford took him outside.
just kind of smoking and joking is what we call it.
The camera didn't record audio, but Detective Ford says Russell began telling him that he and Gavin had gone over to the Fryer house early that morning.
He told us that he was trying to help get Ellie out of a bad situation.
That bad situation, according to Russell, was Aaron Fryer.
And the first thing that he tells us is he's not a good person.
Aaron Fryer's not a good person?
Correct.
He didn't elaborate further about Aaron, but Russell was claiming he and Gavin were only there to secretly move Ellie out.
So the next thing I tell him is, look, Russell, we got detectives out there right now pulling video from every house, the alleys. So if this ain't the truth, you need to be truthful with me right now. And he looks me square in the eyes and he says, well, 95% of it's the truth and there's 5% of it's a lie. So I'm thinking automatically, well, what's the lie here?
Detective Ford decided it was time for a new tactic and tried appealing to Russell's conscience.
I look at him and I'm like, you know, Russell, I don't want a child to find Aaron out there somewhere, come across something like that. I said, can you take us to Aaron? He didn't beat an eye. He's just like, yeah, I'll take you to him.
The veteran detective wasted no time.
We load Russell up. He's actually sitting in the seat that you're sitting in now.
Okay.
We got him handcuffed in front. He's basically telling us, okay, turn right, turn left.
They were ascending a rural mountain pass 20 miles outside town.
And all of a sudden, Russell says, stop, stop right here.
Where did you stop your car back there? Probably right where that rock is.
Do you see the body right away?
You could see the tarp. You couldn't see any portion of the body.
Right here in this green tarp.
Detectives descended the wooded ravine and pulled back that tarp, revealing that just 6 hours after that 911 call, they had found Aaron Fryer.
It was obvious that he was deceased.
When you found out your husband was dead, what did you think?
I was completely shocked. I didn't know what to think.
Maggie says the police hadn't yet told her Ellie was in their custody being questioned, or even that she had been found.
I was very worried about the fate of my daughter. I had no idea if my daughter was even alive, too.
Maggie then faced the unimaginable task of sharing the news of Aaron's death with their 2 younger daughters. The reality was almost too much for then 11-year-old Sierra.
I just really didn't want to believe it for a really long time.
While investigators began processing the scene, Detective Ford drove Russell Jones back to police headquarters. He says Russell was claiming that all he had done was help dispose of Aaron's remains.
He's like, I'm not going to be a witness against Gavin.
Russell was saying Gavin was Aaron's killer, but that Gavin had been provoked.
His story was that Aaron had a rifle and was pointing at Gavin.
So making it seem like a self-defense, because if he had a gun pointed at him.
Exactly.
You can sit in that chair over there. Okay.
Back at the station, Detective Ford returned Russell to the interrogation room, while detectives gathered for a briefing.
You're listening in on my conversations, aren't you?
That's when Russell began taunting them through the camera.
I can still twist your little mind. Don't piss me off.
This, I imagine, got everybody to stop what they were doing and gather around the monitor and watch this.
That's what you do.
So, we can play it the easy way or the hard way.
He would go into these rants and making demands and stuff.
Gavin and Ellie are to be released to me.
And Russell was claiming he still hadn't been totally truthful.
And Mr. Ford, you want the whole story? Because I did miss a few parts.
For her part, Ellie was now saying Russell was the one responsible.
I believe that Russell's the one that killed my father.
All right.
With the conflicting claims, Detective Ford decided it was finally time to interview Gavin McFarland.
I know I'm in serious trouble, aren't I?
Well, we need to figure out what happened.
Gavin started by saying how volatile Aaron Fryer could be.
He's starting my life. He's like, no, stay away from my daughter. I'm going to kill you.
1 month earlier, Gavin had called the police, claiming Aaron had shown up at his house, banging on his door, threatening to kill him.
I don't know what caused him to not like me anymore.
Detectives discovered at least one reason: Gavin's age. He was 19 years old, dating 15-year-old Ellie. And making things worse, Gavin was now claiming Ellie was going to have his baby.
She told you she was pregnant?
I've known for about 2 weeks now.
While Gavin was admitting to having a sexual relationship with a minor, itself a crime, he was accusing Aaron of being the one who had been abusive to Ellie.
The anger had just been building up because of the things that Ellie had been telling me. I was trying to protect Ellie.
Okay.
My boss will try it.
Gavin was claiming he and Russell had gone to the house that morning, but unlike what Russell said, that Aaron had not confronted him with the gun. Instead, Gavin was saying Aaron had been in the living room, asleep on the couch, and that Gavin had crept in, armed with a baseball bat. Then Gavin made a startling admission.
I just acted on instinct.
Okay. Tell us what happened.
I just swung the bat downwards. It was dark. I couldn't see.
How many times do you think you hit him?
Like 5 or 6 maybe.
5 or 6 times?
Yeah.
The physical evidence would back up Gavin's story. Aaron had died from blunt force trauma to his head, and a bat was recovered from a tree branch above where his remains had been found.
So this is the aluminum bat. Discoloration, you can see it's red here. This is all blood.
Testing would confirm the blood was Aaron's.
And he demonstrated for us in the interview room how hard he swung it down on Aaron's head.
I went over the shoulder the first time, and then I started going up above my head.
I mean, there were 5 distinct blows to his head.
Explaining that dinging sound Sierra Fryer had heard.
They fractured his skull, caved his skull into his brain.
I'm really sorry.
And investigators soon found evidence that Aaron's murder had been meticulously plotted for weeks. They discovered notes, some in Russell's handwriting, at Gavin's house.
We found several murder plans, and they actually had plan A, plan B. There were multiple plans, and I think ultimately they come up with the bat.
And based on what you could see from the planning, who's the mastermind of all of this?
Ellie, believe it or not.
Detective Ford says he believes it was Ellie who wanted Aaron murdered, pointing to messages Ford says she sent to Gavin. In one, she says, "We need to make sure he's dead by the time we leave his house." And in another, she asked, "You want to kill him now, don't you? And then you can kill him in less than a minute, right?"
She's pushing it all. She wants to be with Gavin. She wants to be out from underneath the authority of her father.
Ellie wanted me to kill him, but I didn't want to.
Detective Ford says Ellie might have made up those abuse allegations, possibly as a way to motivate Gavin to kill her father.
She is very manipulative. From me watching that entire interview, she lied.
Is Ellie
And lied.
How old are you?
18.
And lied.
How did Gavin get in the house this morning?
He wasn't in the house.
After several hours, Ellie did eventually admit some of her role, even saying that she had handed Gavin the murder weapon.
And what do you say to Gavin?
I said, I'm ready when you are.
Okay, what did you mean by that?
When you do this, we're in it together.
What did you mean when you said, when you do this?
Kill my dad.
With evidence, they all conspired to kill Aaron. Gavin, Russell, and Ellie were charged with his murder.
From the day after she was arrested, there was this narrative, and her side was never told.
Until now.
The story that the state has, why is it the right one?
My daughter left to go stay at my ex-husband's house for the weekend and never came home.
I imagine that moment haunts you still.
Of course it does. My child never came home.
After hours of worry, Maggie Fryer was finally told her 15-year-old daughter Ellie had been located.
I got a phone call from a police officer that they found her.
But worry morphed into anger when she was then told Ellie had been arrested for her father's murder.
Go ahead and take a seat.
And I said, so you've had my daughter in your custody, interrogating her, and you never once called me to let me know so I could maybe get her some representation?
Eliza Kaplan eventually became one of Ellie's attorneys. She says the narrative about Ellie Fryer has been wrong from the very beginning.
In this case, she was made out to be the mastermind or something, you know? She planned all of this when she was 15 years old and they were 19 and 22.
She was the manipulator.
She was the manipulator, right? And that this was all because of her relationship with an older man.
But Kaplan says this crime actually happened because of the alleged abuse Ellie suffered at the hands of her father, Aaron.
She was sexually abused, emotionally abused, and physically abused.
Abuse that Ellie described in her police interrogation.
He used to be a good father, but he started getting abusive about 3 years ago.
I picked out a bunch of things, but...
Reading from the case file, Kaplan recounted several allegations of molestation and abuse. Warning, the following may be disturbing to hear.
Her father would grab at her breasts. He told her to give in to him.
And he tried to take my clothes off, and I slapped him away.
He would masturbate on top of her when he thought she was sleeping.
I felt so dirty and so ashamed of myself.
He pushed her downstairs, called her whore, idiot, stupid, slut-shamed her.
And he would pin me up against the wall and he would call me those names.
And then when he would get drunk, it would all get worse.
As the police report shows, 3 of Ellie's friends told investigators that Ellie said her dad abuses her. Ellie shared that her dad was rough on her and emotionally and physically abused her. And Ellie said her dad mentally and verbally abused her. But Ellie admits she never told her friends about the sexual molestation. And neither Ellie nor her friends told the police about any kind of abuse before her father's murder.
And as far as allegations of abuse, was there any evidence whatsoever that your detectives could find to back up what Ellen Fryer was saying happened to her?
No, there was not.
Detective Ford says with Aaron's death, the possibility of proving abuse may have died with him.
We can't go to Aaron and ask Aaron, were you abusing your daughter? We may never know the truth. If she told her mom, did she tell her mom ahead of time?
Have you thought about having a conversation with your mom about that?
No, I'm horrified to even talk about it.
Who have you talked to about your dad masturbating?
I told Gavin about it, but that's it.
Ellie told Detective Jackson that the first time she had told Gavin was 2 days before he bludgeoned her father to death.
Because I know this is hard to talk about. I know.
Why me? Why did he do it to me? I have no idea what he's done to my sisters.
I see a teenager who would do anything to survive and to protect her sisters.
Detective Shannon Reynolds says 11-year-old Sierra was asked if there were any problems at home.
She actually only had good things to say about her father.
When Detective Reynolds interviewed the youngest Fryer daughter, she recalled the last conversation she had with Ellie, minutes after their father's murder.
She had said that Ellie had woken her up, and she said she was leaving, and that she was leaving because mom and dad were abusive.
Before Reynolds could say anything, the 8-year-old gave her opinion on the matter.
And she told me my mom and dad were not abusive.
Both of Ellie's sisters told Reynolds that what Ellie had called abuse was actually their parents disciplining her for sneaking around with Gavin.
Because they took her electronics away and they yelled at her.
What do you say to that?
Yeah. Well, they were younger, right? This is actually very common in families where there's abuse, that there's one child who takes on the majority of it and want to protect the others in the family.
You know, you describe her as this protective older sister, but yet she left them there at the house. How is that protecting them?
Yeah, and I think, those are things that Ellen will live with for the rest of her life. And she clearly understands how much damage she has caused her sister.
Detective Ford says that with no evidence to back up Ellie's abuse claims, he remains suspicious that she may have made it all up to manipulate Gavin, seen here with Ellie on a store security camera hours after the murder. And it turns out Ellie was never pregnant.
I think you got to look at it two ways. Maybe she thought she was pregnant, or maybe she's using that to influence Gavin to kill her dad.
Ellie's legal team says Ellie did think she was pregnant, which is why she bought a pregnancy test while at the store. Investigators say it's clear Ellie Fryer has an issue with the truth.
She lied during that interview for no reason.
Kaplan says much has been made of the many lies Ellie told during her police interrogation.
As a parent, we all know that our kids sometimes do that.
But Kaplan says the real focus should be on the hours and hours and hours Ellie spent in that interview room.
I have the right to remain silent.
She asked to not talk. She said, I want to remain silent, right? She was there for 10 hours straight.
But with your wishing to remain silent, it's really difficult to kind of get to the bottom of all of that.
Then let's talk.
A minor, without a guardian or attorney.
Is it normal to keep a 15-year-old in an interrogation room for 10 hours like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's no law against it. So we gave her breaks.
I sound like it.
There was times where she laid on the floor and slept.
Kaplan says that although it may have been legal in Oregon, it wasn't right.
And look, police have their jobs to do. I get it. I just think the rules are really different when you have a kid. And in that, she looks like a kid. She's acting like a kid. She's in fear like a kid would be.
A kid who Kaplan says was taken advantage of by someone she calls another abuser, 19-year-old Gavin McFarland.
A grown man reaching over to a 15-year-old girl who was so vulnerable, no matter what her text messages said, no matter what her involvement was. I don't even understand how you don't look at that as him being the controller.
Detective Reynolds says she saw some of that controlling behavior on display in letters Gavin wrote to Ellie after they were arrested.
He was saying that she needed to be sure to say that her dad was abusing her. And he was telling her, we're going to take this to a jury and we're going to win the jury over. And the way to do that is to cry. Make sure you cry.
Given everything I can, and when this goes to court, I would like to be tried as an adult.
But there would be no trial. In January of 2019, a little more than a year after her father's death, Ellie Fryer took a plea deal.
How did you feel about that decision?
I didn't like it because I'm pretty sure that she did it because she was scared. I don't think she wanted to go to court.
Ellie Fryer pleaded guilty to an adult charge of conspiring to murder her father, Aaron.
I would first like to say that I'm sorry for all the pain that I've caused to others through this whole ordeal.
The deal was brokered by a different defense attorney. According to court documents, that attorney wrote that Ellie Fryer's co-defendants, Gavin McFarland and Russell Jones, were going to be testifying against her and say that she was the mastermind behind all of this. It was her idea from the beginning. Ellie's text messages would have been used against her at trial, too. Elisa Kaplan began working on Ellie Fryer's behalf in 2024.
I run the Criminal Justice Reform Clinic. We are looking at Ellen's case, mostly because we believe that she has an excessive sentence.
And what is her sentence?
25 years.
McFarland and Jones also took plea deals, with Gavin McFarland pleading guilty to murder and murder conspiracy charges. He was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Russell Jones entered a no-contest plea to conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to 15 years. Kaplan is fighting to reduce Ellie Fryer's sentence. She says Ellie should not have been sentenced to 10 more years than Jones for the same crime.
She was 15, he was 22, and her sentence is so much bigger than his.
The idea that Ellen is the master manipulator, I mean, she's a 15-year-old. I mean, don't they bear more responsibility because they're the adults?
I wouldn't agree with that. Ellie is absolutely just as responsible as Gavin, except Gavin was the one that took and held the bat in his hands.
Detective Shannon Reynolds isn't as certain as her husband about Ellie Fryer's role.
I go back and forth. The mastermind of it, I initially thought was Ellie. Then reading the letters from Gavin that he wrote to Ellie, telling her what she needed to say, then I started to think maybe Gavin was the mastermind of all of this. I go back and forth.
Ford says regardless of who crafted the plan, all three are responsible in the eyes of the law.
Because without her, this wouldn't have happened. Without Gavin, this wouldn't have happened. I doubt without Russell it could have happened.
I want to be very clear. She was involved. She participated. She was a co-conspirator. No doubt, right? She takes full accountability for her role in this crime.
Ellie Fryer, now 23, has been serving her sentence in a juvenile detention center. In December of 2026, she'll be moved to an adult prison. And she recently earned 2 master's degrees, one in psychology and another in justice studies.
Which, by the way, is not that easy to do when you're in prison. She's really incredible.
I am very proud of her. I've always been proud of her after what she went through.
Aaron's dead. Who's going to speak out for Aaron?
Sierra Fryer will.
My dad was a kind man who loved me and my sisters and always tried to fill my life with joy. He was a great father to me. He goes with me wherever I go.
Sierra has joined the National Guard, something she says her father always wanted for her.
It's mind-blowing that the little girl I interviewed is now grown up. The fact that she's joining the National Guard lets me know she didn't let this, derail her life.
A life Sierra has had to live without her father, whose memory has been marred by those abuse allegations. A 48 Hours producer asked Sierra about them.
Ellie claims that your father abused her. What do you have to say to that?
I don't really want to talk about that just because I have my own feelings about it.
Sierra is just as guarded when it comes to her thoughts about her sister Ellie, though the two have maintained a relationship over the years.
It's very hard to explain because a lot of people wouldn't understand. I've got my own feelings about her.
But Sierra's feelings about her father are very clear.
I love him, and I'm so sorry for everything that happened. I have faith, and I have hope that one day, we'll meet again.
Was the Ferris family a happy family?
No. A wealthy man's murder leads to a mother's unthinkable accusation.
I want everyone, especially my children, to know I didn't do this. I know who did.
48 Hours is all new. CBS next Saturday, 10/9 Central, and streaming on Paramount+.
Like many things in life, the facts of this case are not simple. They're not black and white.
It's easy to forget how symbolic this trial was of a greater problem in the world.
You will hear strong, compelling evidence that explains the real reason for this very sad and tragic killing.
It's been 6 years. Is it still hard to believe that Blaze is gone?
It took a while for it to set in. But I'm at peace with it. Maybe that's all that we were supposed to have.
Happy birthday, dear Blaze.
There were like 19 years with so many moments of brilliance and beauty.
Blaze was very creative. Definitely when we were little kids.
Did you want cheese?
Sure. We were like attached at the hip.
I think of him as somebody whose potential for life was completely obliterated.
Blaze Bernstein was gay, and his killer was a member of a neo-Nazi group.
Undercover officers made their move on Sam Woodward.
What have you learned about neo-Nazis?
They're everywhere. They're all over the internet.
They're here in Orange County.
I believe that this was a hate crime.
The 26-year-old's appearance has changed dramatically from the time of his arrest back in 2018.
At the trial, Sam looked like a spitting image of Charlie Manson. It was absolutely terrifying to look at.
The evidence will show you that the defendant killed Blaze Bernstein because he was gay. He was gay and Jewish.
Hate crime or crime of passion. The difference is the possibility of parole.
Blaze Bernstein was found with 28 stab wounds.
The prosecution has a bit of a higher bar here because they also have to show that Sam murdered Blaze because of his gay identity.
He had developed his long-standing beliefs against Jewish people and gay people.
What happened that night was not a hate crime.
We knew that he was going to present some story of what happened that night.
Not the targeting of someone because of his sexual orientation.
What kind of story could he come up with?
Sam Woodward never planned to kill Blaze Bernstein.
Homophobia, sexual repression, hookup culture. It almost never ends the way that this story ends.
We don't have any control over what the outcome is.
He could be innocent. We'll let the jury decide.
The why is the single most important issue you will need to decide. Not who is responsible for the death of a young man, but exactly why he was killed 6 years ago.
For Jeannie Pepper and her husband Gideon Bernstein, those 6 years were painfully marked by COVID delays, shifting lawyers, and legal strategies.
Slow justice is no justice. It's not fair to victims, and it's not fair to the deceased.
Finally came April of 2024. Jeannie and Gideon were more than ready for their day in court.
We're impatient. We want to get on with our lives.
But not before telling the story of their firstborn child, Blaze Bernstein, how he lived, and why they believe he died. Murdered because of who he was, targeted by hate.
It's not safe for you to be a lot of different minorities now.
The victim in this case, and nobody disputes that he was a victim, was stabbed to death.
Ken Morrison would defend Samuel Woodward, charged with first-degree premeditated murder. Morrison squared off against prosecutor Jennifer Walker.
And where we start is with who was killed, Blaze Bernstein, and he was 19. He was gay and Jewish.
The silent, ghostly presence in the courtroom was Blaze. That slender, curious, playful young man with a big world. Images that refuse to fade.
Are there pictures or things that flash through your mind that you think of Blaze?
Always, every day.
It was just weeks after Blaze's death that we first met Jeannie and Gideon. Wounds raw, they shared bittersweet memories of the son they described as magical.
And the first time I saw him, I looked in his eyes, there's something about this baby. He's going to change the world someday.
Boom, 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 ba ba boom, ba boom. Hey, ba ba boom, ba boom. That's gonna be the intro.
What do you miss most about Blaze?
Yeah, that's it.
His quirky personality.
Ba ba boom, ba boom.
He was different.
He liked to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary.
I call him the unicorn. He was magnificently creative.
It was late summer 2016, and Blaze, who'd already achieved so much, was headed to an Ivy League school here in Philadelphia, the University of Pennsylvania. There'd be new friends, mentors, and challenges, and Blaze seemed ready for it all.
He really hit his stride.
A creative writer, thinking about a career in medicine.
He was finding himself.
Then came winter break, sophomore year. Blaze headed home.
He was really looking forward to being with us too.
There were holiday celebrations and Hanukkah candles. The budding chef cooked up a gourmet meal. And then, sometime on the night of January 2nd, 2018, Blaze secretly left his parents' house. It would be the last time.
That night, when did you realize that he was missing?
We didn't.
I didn't know that night.
We didn't even know. We thought he slept in, and the next day we were...
I had my aha moment when I was at the dental appointment.
The next day, Blaze was due to meet his mother for that dentist appointment. But Blaze never showed up and wasn't answering his cell phone.
I called Gideon. He asked me if Blaze had ever come home the night before, and I screamed out, I don't know.
Rushed out of the office and came home.
We both did. We flew home.
And checked Blaze's room.
His wallet, his retainers, his keys.
Those are all still at the
his
house.
glasses.
Yeah, all of that stuff was at the house.
But your thought was?
Well, it's just so highly unusual.
He wanted to spend time with us. I just kept texting and calling him and leaving messages all day. Where had he been? We didn't know.
They called police and tried to log on to Blaze's social media accounts.
We just jumped on his computer. This was a big challenge for us.
But with the help of family and friends, they logged on to Blaze's Snapchat. That's where they discovered the night he disappeared, Blaze had sent his home address to someone. Sam Woodward, a seeming stranger.
We never heard the name.
Never heard the name before.
Gideon and Jeannie were panicked and baffled. Who was Sam? So Gideon messaged Sam, please pick up. Sam got on the phone. The Bernsteins recorded the phone conversation and would share it with police.
We just cracked into his Snap account and saw that you had been trying to find him. So you're the first real clue to the puzzle here.
Sam's pieces of the puzzle began with him meeting Blaze near the Bernsteins' home.
I picked him up at 11.
And he said he drove him here, nearby Borrego Park, with its thick brush and twisting paths. And that once there, they parked.
Okay. And then did he get out of the car, or what happened?
Yeah, he got out of the car, and I got out of the car too.
And Sam added, Blaze, claiming he was going to meet a friend, walked down a path and vanished into the darkness.
I shouted out, Blaze, Blaze, but I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything.
Sam explained to the Bernsteins how he knew Blaze and why, he says, they were getting together.
It was more of a spur of the moment kind of thing. Yeah, dude, let's hang out. Since you and I were friends when we were at OSHA.
OSHA, the Orange County School of the Arts, where Rhea Rofsky, Blaze, and Sam were once classmates. Rhea's high school memories of Sam were about to come flooding back with a vengeance.
I got a call from my mom. Rhea, did you hear? And I said, what? And she said, Blaze is missing. And then my mom said, Rhea, he was with this guy named Sam Woodward. I screamed in the phone, he what? And she was like, do you know this guy? And I said, yes, I know this guy. He's crazy.
How different were Sam and Blaze?
Oh, they were so different. Probably about as different as you could be.
Hauntingly different, says Blaze's oldest friend. So when that word began to filter across Orange County, that Blaze hadn't come home, and that Sam Woodward might be a person of interest, it chilled Rhea to the bone. Her memories of Sam, impossible to shake.
Well, hello, ladies.
He was drawing guns in his notebook in class.
Did you say anything?
No.
But you thought?
This is terrifying.
The spotlight was on Sam Woodward, whom Rhea remembered from high school.
He was very quiet, very withdrawn, didn't really talk to people.
Sam Woodward, odd man out, says Rhea.
You know, everybody has their clique, but I don't think he identified with any of them, really.
And as far as anyone knew, the last person to see Blaze Bernstein alive.
The only reason I could think of Sam meeting up with Blaze is because either number one, he wanted to hook up with him, or two, because he was planning to murder him.
And as for that story Sam told, that on the spur of the moment, he and Blaze had decided to hang out, it didn't come close to adding up for Rhea.
He had a reputation of being what?
Racist, homophobic, sexist.
It was Rhea who was there when Blaze's sexuality was still a secret, until along a glistening California beach, he bravely confided in his oldest friend.
So you guys were kind of walking down the beach alone together and he came out to you?
Yeah.
Rhea, who would later also come out, stepped up when it mattered most.
All I could do was be a good friend and love him unconditionally.
Did you get the sense that Blaze had told anyone else that
I don't think that
bi?
he did. He was kind of upset to say it.
Something that clearly was a big secret for him. And
Yeah. You know, coming out to yourself is a really mature, difficult thing to do.
And what did you tell him?
I told him, it's okay. If you like boys, that's totally fine. Love who you love.
While he hadn't yet told his parents, Gideon and Jeannie sensed Blaze might be gay.
We went up to him and said, listen, whatever your situation is, we embrace it, we love you, we don't care.
But in those first days of 2018, it wasn't just love. It was also an unimaginable fear that consumed Jeannie and Gideon as the search for Blaze began. Orange County cops spoke with Sam. He repeated what he'd told the Bernsteins on that phone call, that he had picked Blaze up, driven to Borrego Park, and that then Blaze had vanished. By January 5th, the search had become massive.
We're out here conducting a search for Blaze Bernstein. We're here today to get your help to find our son.
Please keep your eyes open for my baby. I want him home with me now.
Search and rescue teams and helicopters searched the wilderness area.
And we printed up thousands and thousands of flyers that people in the congregation put up. Everybody's looking.
Shabbat Shalom.
Rabbi Arnold Rockless coordinated the search from University Synagogue, where Blaze was an active member and a role model.
Please join me in honoring Blaze Bernstein.
Blaze embraced his Jewish heritage and confronted its haters.
Not only were 6 million Jewish people systematically murdered throughout Europe in concentration camps.
At such a young age, to see someone with so much talent is a beautiful thing. A good heart, a good soul. That's what Blaze had.
Everyone was somehow hoping for good news, including, it seemed, Sam Woodward.
Okay, so is this the best number to reach you at?
Yes, sir, it is.
On that call that Gideon had recorded, Sam sounded deeply concerned.
Yeah, I want to find blood as much as you do.
But Blaze was nowhere to be found. Anxious hours stretched into sleepless nights.
I really didn't know if we would ever find him.
As the days passed,
You know,
it became more and more difficult.
And I thought, we're never going to know. We're never going to know what happened exactly. We're never going to figure it out. Yeah. That's what I thought.
I immediately thought, he's dead. He's dead.
Just from hearing that he was with Sam.
Yes.
it was day 7 since Blaze last left home. A family, a community was beyond frustrated. Detectives had searched Borrego Park over and over, but they decided to give it one more look. In the pouring rain, a detective stood right over there, and hidden under a large tree branch was a mound of dirt. Under the wet, caked earth lay Blaze Bernstein.
If not the rain, we would have never known what happened to him. So the rain uncovered his face.
Leah and Richard Bernstein are Blaze's grandparents.
We just loved him.
I wish I could write like he wrote. I wish I could cook like he cooked. Where's Blaze? Yeah, he's in front.
48 Hours met them just a few months after Blaze was murdered.
I think the world lost a beautiful soul.
I always think of him before I go to sleep.
Their grandchild, once brimming with life and possibility, had been horrifically slaughtered with a knife.
And then the funeral happened. And it was shattering.
The grief stretched across Orange County.
We're hugging them right now. We're all hugging them. This is our big, giant hug to them.
Just want to know why.
I don't even want to know, because I'm not going to like that answer.
3 days after Blaze Bernstein was found, butchered and broken.
Can you tell us what happened to Blaze? No comment.
Investigators confronted his one-time classmate, Sam Woodward.
Were you there when he disappeared?
At his parents' home.
Undercover officers made their move on Sam Woodward this afternoon. As he pulled out of his Newport Beach driveway and went down the road, they pulled that car over and arrested him.
Sam Woodward was charged with murder with the personal use of a knife.
Then Orange County DA Tony Rackauckus.
How did Blaze Bernstein die?
He was stabbed multiple times in the neck.
What does that tell you?
Well, it tells me that there was a lot of hate.
For Blaze's parents, the details of his murder were too much to even imagine.
I just try not to think about what that really meant. I don't think that I physically can deal with the trauma of what's happened.
As police gathered evidence, the violence that happened in Borrego Park was revealed. With Blaze's body, his battered phone. Inside Sam Woodward's car, blood.
The blood on the headliner belonged to both Sam Woodward and Blaze Bernstein.
Blaze Bernstein's blood was in Sam Woodward's car.
Yes, yes.
And then they went on to search the house.
Yes.
What kind of forensic evidence did they gather?
There was a knife. The knife had blood on it. Blaze Bernstein's blood on the knife.
At his arraignment, Sam Woodward would plead not guilty. Investigators would continue to search for what happened that night in Borrego Park. They would soon come to believe that Sam had a dark and frightening secret.
He was involved in this extreme neo-Nazi organization, Atomwaffen Division, which does expect its members to explicitly target members of the Jewish and LGBTQ community.
Sarah Moore monitors hate crime, working for GLAAD, one of the most prominent gay rights organizations in the country. She's kept a close eye on the small but violent group, Atomwaffen. These are their propaganda videos, posted between 2017 and 18.
They want to kind of blow up the world as it is. They want to create something entirely new.
And the new thing is what?
In their mind, it would be a white ethno-state. And there's either no Jewish or no LGBTQ or no people of color in that society.
How does Atomwaffen recruit?
They recruit primarily online.
Just a click away, and exactly where Sam, whom Ray Arofsky remembers had trouble making friends, found some, strangers who welcomed and encouraged him.
Did you consider yourself a neo-Nazi?
I just consider myself a Nazi.
This man does not want his identity revealed, but he says he was once a member of Atomwaffen and that he came in contact with Sam the year before Blaze was murdered.
It was like a camaraderie type of feeling, common interests.
And those interests were hating other groups, hating Jews, hating gays, hating blacks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How involved was Sam Woodward in Atomwaffen?
I know that he was involved.
Involved enough, say investigators, to wear the Atomwaffen mask, give the Nazi salute, make a pilgrimage to Colorado to meet neo-Nazi leader James Mason, and travel to Texas to attend Atomwaffen's version of a corporate retreat. They call it Hate Camp.
At hate camps, members will get kind of a 101 training on how to be a violent extremist.
And that bitter January 2018, when news broke that Blaze had been stabbed to death, allegedly by a member of Atomwaffen, as Orange County mourned, neo-Nazis reportedly cheered.
Everyone celebrated him like he killed a gay Jew.
Which in their mind is sort of a jackpot.
Ugh.
It's disgusting.
There were people congratulating this accused killer for what he has done, killing my son, congratulating him.
Had you ever heard of Atomwaffen
No.
before this?
But we should have, because we're a perfect target for that group.
Because of Sam's involvement in Atomwaffen, 7 months after Blaze's murder, prosecutors upped the ante, adding a hate crime enhancement, a murder motivated by prejudice.
As the story unfolded that the murder was related to homophobia and anti-Semitism, well, then the anger in the community ratcheted up.
For some, it brought back the darkest of times.
It must seem like all of this hate was behind you. That's something in the past.
You can't forget it.
You can't forget it.
Never.
It's a murderous echo from her past. All too real for Grandma Leah, a Holocaust survivor. Once a little girl forced by Hitler's Nazis to wear a yellow star.
Yes, we did wear the stars.
It's a horrible irony that what you escaped is
following me.
Sam Woodward was locked up in the Orange County Jail. He would begin his years-long journey through the justice system. It included a revolving door of defense lawyers who raised questions with the court about Sam's mental health and his ability to defend himself. In 2022, Sam Woodward was found competent to stand trial. Investigators say they also mined Sam Woodward's phone and social media activity. And along with the Nazi propaganda, they found something else. Sam had visited gay dating and porn sites, and he had exchanged flirtatious messages with Blaze.
So they matched twice on Tinder.
Lewis Keene, a reporter for The Forward, would cover the case and report on the conversations between Sam and Blaze.
Blaze admits that he's gay. Blaze says, "I think you're hot." And Sam says back to Blaze, "You're not too bad looking yourself, Blaze." So they kind of had this flirty interaction.
Maybe Sam was like closeted and wanted to hook up.
Rhea Rofsky moved to New York City, where she lives as an openly bisexual woman. She still wonders about Sam's intention and Blaze's that tragic night in Borrego Park.
The defense may argue that Blaze made a move on Sam, and Sam freaked out.
Okay, and if you freak out, does that excuse you stabbing somebody?
April 2024.
Stuff is getting real. The jury's being picked.
Finally, Sam Woodward headed to trial. Over time, the case had taken on even greater meaning.
There's a lot at stake here because it's not just about getting justice for Blaze, but it's also about what precedent this is setting for other LGBTQ+ people who have been or might in the future be in similar situations.
Blaze's parents steadied themselves to relive the night that shattered their lives.
I know that a lot of things will be said that are probably untrue, because that's what happens in a criminal trial. I have an opportunity to defend Blaze, and that's what I will do.
See more evidence in the case at 48hours.com.
Please come to order. Superior Court is now in session.
The people called Jeannie Pepper.
It's the final thing that I have to do for my son, is be there and make sure that there is some form of justice.
Good afternoon, Ms. Pepper.
It took more than 6 years for Jeannie and Gideon to get this day in court.
I just want to thank you for being here, and I'm sorry that the circumstances.
But it comes with terrible memories of the day they lost their son, Blaze.
You remember where you were when you got the phone call?
I do remember that, yes.
And why does that stand out in your mind?
Because it was the beginning of hell.
The couple have to come face to face with their son's killer. But the killer, Sam Woodward, doesn't seem to want to be seen.
Can I ask you to move the
hair out of your face a little bit. Maybe pull the hair on the right side of your head away so we can see you. Please. Thank you.
Even before he took the stand, Sam Woodward was already an eerie presence in the courtroom who got everyone's attention.
Sam looked like Charles Manson. So you couldn't really see his face.
No.
You couldn't really hear him all the time.
Reporter Lewis Keene.
If you're in the jury, he looks extremely menacing.
Do you want to look him in the eye?
Not really. I don't care. He's meaningless to me.
Can I nag you one more time to move your hair out of your face a little bit for us?
Blaze, we love you and we want you to come home.
Back when they were frantically searching for Blaze.
Please keep your eyes open for my baby. I want him home with me now.
Sam Woodward told them he didn't know anything about what happened to their son.
I didn't see where he went. I searched all over for him. I couldn't find him anywhere.
But his looks have changed dramatically, and so has his story.
Do you remember what you were thinking when you were driving the knife down again and again and again?
An anger like nothing I'd ever felt in my whole life.
There's absolutely no question Sam Woodward killed Blaze Bernstein.
The evidence will show that Samuel Woodward is guilty of homicide.
The question for the jury is
why this homicide was committed.
Sam's defense attorney said in opening arguments that we were going to hear from Sam about something that happened that night that provoked Sam into killing Blaze.
The challenge for defense attorney Ken Morrison is to prove voluntary manslaughter, that Woodward acted impulsively.
There was no cold, calculated decision to kill.
And the knife? According to the defense, it wasn't ever meant for murder. From the time Sam was a Boy Scout, Sam was never without one.
Did you ever carry a pocket knife with you in your pants pocket?
Yes, I would. Almost all the time.
Did you have a knife in your pocket when you were with Blaze Bernstein?
Yes, I did.
The killing happened in less than an hour.
Prosecutor Jennifer Walker argues this was premeditated murder and a hate crime.
You'll see the cell phone evidence, the DNA evidence, the defendant's words, the defendant's hate.
In the nearly 3 months at trial, Walker painstakingly put on more than 20 witnesses, including the same former Atomwaffen member who spoke with us, now a witness for the prosecution, who still wanted his identity concealed.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a picture of Samuel Woodward.
All to build the case for the added hate charge and a greater sentence.
The difference is the possibility of parole. If it's no hate crime, then it's 25 years to life with the possibility of parole. If it's a first-degree premeditated murder and a hate crime, Sam faces life in prison without possibility of parole.
The facts of this case are not simple.
The defense uses a time-honored tactic, suggesting the victim is not as innocent as he appears.
You will learn that Blaze Bernstein was not killed because of who he was, but because of what he did. Tell us what happened.
In Sam Woodward's version,
Sam, can you pick your head up, move your hair?
Blaze was toying with him and threatening to out him. Once they were in Borrego Park, Sam says he smoked a joint.
I started nodding off.
Sam says he thought Blaze took a compromising picture.
I saw my pants unbuckled. I could practically feel something somewhat close to my leg. and he had his phone in his hand.
He tells us that he believes that Blaze is taking a photo of his privates.
I just came undone. I went in a state of just terror, and I asked, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
No photo was ever found, so there's no evidence that Blaze actually took one.
What were you afraid of?
I grew up in a home with my mother and my father, and I love them more than I can imagine. My father, though, there's no way, not a chance, people like him, just even thinking about the look on his face if he saw something like that, if he'd heard about something like that that got out somehow, I couldn't fathom that.
Sam grew up in an ultra-conservative Catholic household. He had parents who believed homosexuality was a sin, but Sam also seemed to have really conflicted feelings about his own sexuality. What you come away with is just immense sadness of all these external forces coming to bear on his life. He did what he did, and what he did can't be undone.
Any idea how long it took to stop stabbing Blaze?
No idea. No.
It was one of the most awful things I've ever heard. And you know that Blaze's parents are sitting there for months of this trial. They've been hearing their son is accused of sexual assault. You can't really imagine what that's like. Jeannie Pepper walked out of the room.
For the prosecution, the only predator in this story is Sam Woodward.
He has a 6-inch knife out, and Blaze is the predator. Blaze is the problem here. That's what's being sold to you by the defendant. He was interested and fixated on hate. Atomwaffen division had that outlet for him.
Only 2 people know what really happened that night. Sam Woodward has had his say. Blaze Bernstein isn't alive to tell us.
You should find him guilty of the first-degree murder with the hate crime. It's the only reasonable conclusion.
Do you have any hesitation? Do you have any doubt?
Now it's up to the jury.
The passage of time has been doubly hard for Blaze's grandparents, Richard and Leah, still waiting for justice for the grandson they loved and lost.
I miss him all, everything about him. He was loving and caring. He was handsome too.
Blaze and his exceptional appetite for life.
I tried to treat him as just a normal kid, you know, and he turned out he turned out well.
On July 3rd, 2024, the jurors began their deliberations.
I don't want him to die. I want him to suffer every day of his life.
Is there a part of you that wants to look that young man in the eye?
No.
Why not?
Because he's a footnote in history.
Whether footnote or headline, grandparents, parents, rabbi, oldest friend, it felt like forever.
I was nervous and I felt anxiety because I was not sure what the verdict was going to be.
"2,364 days after his arrest, Sam Woodward's fate is on the line, living and dying in prison, or someday possibly walking free.
It's my understanding that you do have a verdict. Is that accurate?
We have.
It took the jury 8 hours.
The verdict being read, there's no way to describe what it's like, sort of the emotional intensity of the moment.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Samuel Woodward, guilty of the crime of first-degree murder.
But as soon as the jury says guilty, I heard Jeannie say, "Oh, thank God."
Guilty of murder. But was it hate? Did Sam target Blaze because he was gay? The jury spoke again.
We, the jury, find it to be true that the defendant, Samuel Woodward, committed hate crime, first-degree murder.
Outside the Orange County courtroom, all that pain and uncertainty overflowed.
Good afternoon. My name is Todd Spitzer. I'm the District Attorney of Orange County.
The current DA offered thoughts on love and law.
We don't care who you love or who you want to be with. You deserve to be a free person with free will and love who you love, and that needs to be protected.
We are thrilled with the verdict, which holds Samuel Woodward accountable for the brutal, violent, painful murder of our son, brother, grandson, cousin, Blaze Bernstein on January 3rd, 2018.
His parents will never get to speak to him again, and that loss is incalculable. The Woodwards also lost their son. He's going to prison.
When the verdict was that the murder was a hate crime, that essentially meant that there is the proof that Blaze was murdered because he was gay and Jewish. Simple as that.
For Rhea, who Blaze first came out to on that California beach.
In my head, I was telling Blaze, we finally got him. Like, you know, case closed.
And, says the prosecutor, Sam Woodward should pay the maximum price.
He faces life without possibility of parole, and that's what we'll be asking for.
Thank you.
Experts who monitor Atomwaffen say it has largely dissolved, but that the threat of hate groups remains today.
You said, love who you love. It sounds so simple, but it's not.
Just because you're accepting of yourself, that doesn't mean that everybody's gonna see the same way as you do, you know?
Can you picture Blaze if he was alive today?
No, I don't think I can.
Can you still hear his voice?
No.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
For Jeannie and Gideon, every day brings reminders of what might have been.
I think about Blaze all the time because when I see things, I think to myself, what would Blaze be doing now?
They founded what they call a kindness movement, promoting positivity and random acts of kindness in Blaze's name.
Blaze It Forward was a response to Blaze's death.
And in Borrego Park, where Blaze took his last breath, there is this. Hundreds of hand-painted stones, most left by total strangers, in the memory of Blaze Bernstein.
This pile of stones has grown and grown and grown.
Yes, it's great to see the messaging. It's always positive.
And they're getting sent to us from all over the world.
Still.
The silent stones speak of tolerance and Blaze Bernstein's transformation into a kind of martyr, his murder a marker of rabid hate. His spirit, an inspiration to LGBTQ+ people, wherever they live, and with whomever they love.
Blaze's life mattered, and he has a legacy to create good news, to inspire people to be better, to be kinder, and to work on repairing the world because it's not too late and we can make it better.
CBS Next, a young girl's mysterious disappearance.
She just vanished.
And a cat and mouse game with a convicted killer.
We don't have Sarah's body.
Do you think he will give that up?
I don't know. If he does, it won't be out of the goodness of his heart.
New 48 Hours, 2-episode season premiere. Next on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.
My name's Adam Duxter. I am a local news reporter, and in the summer of 2021, I was working as a multimedia journalist for WISC News 3, News 3 Now in Madison, Wisconsin. Madison is not New York City, it's not LA where there's news happening all the time. A missing person, especially a husband and wife, that would be news.
The Dane County Sheriff's Office shared this photo of Bart and Krista Helderson. Instead, spending today interviewing neighbors. There are too many unanswered questions.
You know, cars go off the road. Things happen. You know, there's a storm or there's a crash or XYZ, you just don't know.
My boss was calling her or emailing her or texting her. I was doing the same. I was texting Bart, and there was just never any response. I met Krista through work at Zimbrick Body Shop, and then I met her husband through her, obviously, and then, you know, they just did anything for anybody, like even people they didn't know.
So I'm on the Krista side. We were related through my dad's side of the family, and we mostly saw each other in Wisconsin at our family cottage cabin during summers and family reunions. They both gave 100% to raising their boys. Mitchell was a little more outgoing, very easygoing. Chandler was a little more sensitive, a little quieter. Her whole goal for her being a mom was, and I'm quoting her, she said, "I want my children to be the best men they can be."
The biggest concern for me is just figuring out where they are.
Police say the couple had planned to go to their cabin in Langlade County.
Our investigation began on July 7th when Chandler reported his parents missing.
We knew exactly what Chandler had told us. We knew that his two parents were gone. They had left for the 4th of July weekend, supposedly to go to their cabin in northern Wisconsin. I've never been assigned to a case where a couple is gone.
We ask even more questions to try to get a story and get a timeline of when did the Heldersons go missing? And everything was just happening so fast in those first couple of days.
When we first got the email saying that Bart and Krista were missing, it didn't compute. Like, what do you mean they're missing? Like, they went up to the cabin and they didn't come back. And I went, huh?
Did you think possibly they'd been in a car accident and just hadn't been found?
I thought about that, or I did think about the boat. Did something happen out on the lake?
And all these stories are swirling around and not making any sense. And it's, you know, taking weirder and weirder turns.
And we needed to search this area because of how remote it is and wooded it is and the access to water to see if we could find any evidence.
No way I would have ever guessed what was about to be revealed. Never. Nobody saw this coming.
Bart and Krista Helderson had everything a couple could want: a beautiful home in Windsor, Wisconsin, and two sons they adored, 24-year-old Mitchell, who worked in tech, and 23-year-old Chandler, a college student living at home. Chandler had big ambitions. He talked of getting his IT degree, of his promising internship at an insurance company, and was especially excited about a new job he landed at SpaceX, founded by one of the richest people in the world, Elon Musk. Everything seemed to be going well for the Haldersons. So on Friday morning, July 2nd, when Krista just didn't show up at the office, Dan Croninger remembers becoming concerned.
How unusual was it for, number one, for Krista not to show up for work, not to call, and just not show up? How unusual?
Extremely unusual.
Dan and Krista not only worked together, they were close friends.
So when she hadn't said anything to me, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. It wasn't something that she would ever do.
Dan says he texted and called her several times, but got no response. Later that afternoon, he and his girlfriend drove over to the Halderson home. A neighbor's security camera shows them arriving.
You know, knocked on the door, didn't hear anything, peered through the window. The only thing that seemed weird was there was a coffee table on its side. You looked through the door, it was kind of off to the right, they had a fireplace over there.
Then Dan says he walked over to the garage window.
I looked in, both cars were there. I was like, why are both cars here? And I was starting to go around the back of the house, and then Chandler came out the side door, and he came out in a towel saying, oh, I just got out of the shower. You know, hey, what's going on? I was like, oh, we're just looking for Bart and Krista. And he said, oh yeah, they had to go up north this morning for an emergency up at the cabin.
Dan says he was relieved to know that Bart and Krista were at the family cabin. Over the holiday weekend, he kept in touch with Chandler to see if he had heard from his mom and dad.
But he said, yeah, they don't have very good service up there, so you kind of have to wait till the clouds clear before they get a message.
On Sunday, July 4th, Dan says Chandler called him and said he was bored and needed something to do. So Dan invited him over to watch the fireworks and asked Chandler about his parents.
He mentioned that he talked to them and they're going to be back Monday.
All right, when he said that he had talked to them, did he say he talked to both his parents or just his mom? What did he say? Do you remember?
I don't think he was specific. I mean, I was asking about his mom because I knew she had a doctor's appointment coming up that she was really wanted to be at. I think it had been rescheduled before.
But Krista didn't show up for work on Monday, and again on Tuesday. By Wednesday, July 7th, when there was still no word, Dan knew something was wrong.
And now she's missed her appointment.
So now it's all out concern.
Right.
You know something's happened to her now.
Right.
Dan pushed Chandler to file a missing persons report that morning.
Chandler Halderson walked into one of our precincts to report his parents missing.
Detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk with the Dane County Sheriff's Office would lead the team to track down the missing couple.
We had a lot of detectives assisting us with the caseload.
Their first stop, the Halderson home on Oak Springs Circle Drive.
So when you first got there, who was home?
It was just Chandler.
We're inside the house with him, and detectives are getting information outside, and so we're either getting, phone calls or text messages of, hey, maybe ask about this. We're walking around the house with him. He's pointing out things at the house, things that were missing that his parents took when they traveled to the cabin.
While deputies began interviewing neighbors and friends, Barbie Townsend, Krista's first cousin who lives in Southern California, knew only what she had seen on the news, that the Haldersons' 23-year-old son Chandler had gone to the police telling them his parents were missing.
What does that mean? What does missing mean? And that they had gone up to our cabin, family cottage, and didn't return.
Bart and Krista had not mentioned to coworkers or their older son Mitchell that they had been planning to go to the cabin that weekend. But according to Chandler, another couple who he didn't know picked up his parents and drove them there. The cabin was a remote, rustic lakeside retreat and a treasured family heirloom. Barbie and Krista's grandparents built it in the 1940s.
You start to think of crazy things because our cabin's up in the woods. And so we were worried that, are they being held hostage somewhere? Are they tied up somewhere?
The day after Chandler reported them missing, his brother Mitchell and his fiancee drove 3 hours up north to see if he could find any sign of his parents.
Why would they not call? Why wouldn't there be a text or something? You know, your mind just starts to go down really murky trails because you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Hi there.
Hi there.
Are you guys,
The Halderson?
you are affiliated with them?
Yes.
The police met Mitchell and his fiancee at the cabin,
But maybe we could just take a walk around and see. You would know the property probably better than we would.
prepared for the worst.
Sheriff's office, anybody inside? Announce your presence, make yourselves known.
When the Haldersons disappeared, it stunned everyone who knew them. Barbie Townsend said neither her cousin Krista nor her husband Bart would just leave on a whim.
He was more structured. She was the more nurturing, indulging mom. It was a wonderful combination.
She worked as a customer service representative for an auto body shop and loved art projects. He was a managing director for an international accounting firm and enjoyed woodworking.
They were 100% about the family. He was very involved in the scouting and all the things they did.
The Haldersons were together on Father's Day in June 2021, less than a month before Bart disappeared. Mitchell is smiling, and Chandler, who had a mild concussion from a fall, is wearing a neck brace. Investigators, anxious to find out what had happened to Bart and Krista Halderson, asked deputies from the Langley County Sheriff's Office to help Mitchell, who brought along his fiancée, search the family's cabin, a 3-hour drive north of the family home. When they got inside, it was dark. There were no signs of Krista and Bart. They also checked a shed. The canoe was there. It was obvious no one had been to the cabin in a very long time.
They're believed to be with another couple?
Someone else, at least.
Okay.
Yeah.
When Mitchell was with the police searching the family's cabin, Chandler was on his own hunt throughout the neighborhood. Here he is, seen on video doorbell cameras, going door to door, asking homeowners if they had seen or heard from his parents.
It's kind of difficult to track him down.
Adam Duxter, now with the CBS station WCCO in Minneapolis, worked in Madison, Wisconsin at the time. He immediately started calling his sources.
So we're waiting to hear back from the sheriff's office, and my boss at the time, he was like, well, you can't just sit around. You gotta go start shooting something. And so packed my gear in my car and drove out there to their street in Windsor.
He knocked on the Haldersons' front door. The missing couple's son, Chandler, answered.
And so I'm like, if you'd be willing, I'd love to do a quick interview. And he was like, yeah, I'll do that. But I don't want you to film me. I don't want to be shown, but you can record my voice.
So my last message I got from them, they were going to White Lake for the 4th of July. Other than that, their plan, or to my knowledge, they were going to Langley County to a cabin, their cabin.
At the time, I got this sense like he was in shock. This is someone who's roughly my age. And so I'm thinking like, yeah, if my parents just went missing, he probably hasn't slept. He's probably really nervous.
Alex Gravatt knew Chandler well.
I was roommates with Chandler for a little while. I called him Chaz.
The two friends shared an apartment from 2019 to 2020.
We grew up together and we played soccer together, did Cub Scouts together, and just hung out together. He was a great swimmer, so I know that the swim team really got along with him.
Alex says his friend Chandler, who went by the name Chaz, could be a playful guy.
He was a goon, a hooligan in a lot of senses.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, he would play pranks and he would make lots of jokes or poke fun at people.
Alex described Chaz as popular with women, college student Catherine Mallender, known as Kat, was his longtime girlfriend.
He was a relatively attractive guy. I mean, he looked good, he had great hair, he kept up on appearances.
According to Alex, when they were roommates, Chaz often bragged to friends about hooking up with different women behind Kat's back. When she found out about it,
She grilled him. She was like, "Are you seeing other people?" And he just kept denying it.
but Kat remained suspicious and began tracking her boyfriend on social media. Alex says Chaz became more secretive and moved back home with his parents. And now those parents were missing. Detectives Shunk and Sims began follow-up interviews.
At that point, what do we really have? We don't know what we have.
Then they got a tip they desperately needed from the owner of a farm outside town.
We received information from someone that, yes, Chandler had been out to my property over 4th of July weekend.
The owner was a friend of Chandler's girlfriend, Kat. The owner said she was with the couple at her farm on July 4th. She told deputies she was surprised to see Chandler again the very next day. And this time, he was alone.
And I saw him coming from the wood line. His car was parked, backed up to the field. So of course, right from that interview, we want to go search that property.
As deputies began searching, detectives wanted to know why Chandler had never mentioned he had gone back to the farm by himself. Police picked up Chandler and took him to the station.
What's going on?
Detective Brian Shunk asked him to once again describe the last time he had seen his parents.
It's Thursday morning. I wake up. What time is it? 6.
Chandler said his dad Bart was at home working and that later he had dinner with both parents.
That's where they told me while we were eating it, they were going to go with their friends, and I was like, oh, cool. And they said they were going to the cabin. Yeah. We're going up north.
While detectives questioned Chandler, deputies were out searching the farm and made a discovery that quickly changed the tone of the interview.
Listen to me. This is the only chance you're gonna have to tell us the truth. Okay? Listen. I can't tell you what we know, but we know you're not telling us the truth. You need to tell the truth. Listen. You need to tell the truth about what happened and just tell us why it happened. I'm not BSing you, okay? So can we do that? Okay, you're okay. Lawyer.
Chandler's request for a lawyer ended that interview. Detective Sims remembers the moment she learned what deputies told her they had found near that field.
Brian and I were in the command post together, and I said, what did you say? I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
They had discovered human remains. On Thursday, July 8, 2021, in the village of Windsor, Wisconsin, the community struggled to make sense of the disturbing news. The remains of an adult male had been found on a farm 20 miles from Bart and Krista Halderson's home.
At this point, it's very early in our investigation.
Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett warned residents not to jump to conclusions.
I don't want to make any uncorroborated speculations at this time.
The gruesome discovery was made the day after Bart and Krista had been reported missing by their son. And it was something detectives Brian Shunk and Sabrina Sims had never encountered.
The grass had been matted down, and they followed it to a trail which led to the discovery of a male torso that was concealed with sticks and twigs.
That was really the moment, right?
It was huge.
I think of other death investigations or homicide cases we've worked, and I don't remember a time that I've worked a dismemberment case.
And what other evidence was found out there?
We found some cutting instruments, some that were hidden in an old oil drum, some scissors, pruning shears, a broken bow saw.
And it was all in the same wooded area where the Haldersons' son Chandler had been seen earlier in the week. Detective Sims had a pretty good idea who the victim was.
Knowing in my gut that that was most likely Bart Halderson, and his son was seen in that area.
Police turned their full attention to Chandler Halderson. He was now a person of interest and the prime suspect. While tests were being done to confirm the victim's identity, detectives arrested Chandler and charged him with lying to them.
The arrest was based on him providing false information in regards to a missing person.
Krista Halderson's cousin, Barbie Townsend.
What did you think? They arrested him for giving false information about a missing person.
That was the first day that I started to suspect foul play from their own son.
I checked my phone and I saw that, and it was that he had been arrested. And it was pretty wild.
Alex Cravat, his childhood friend, learned about it on social media.
My eyes got wide. I kind of just sat there for a second reading it. My first thought was, if he's being arrested for giving misinformation to the police, I didn't think that there was really much of a chance that he wasn't involved somehow.
But there's someone who had a hard time imagining Chandler was involved. His girlfriend, Kat. She spoke to police just before his arrest.
You don't think he had anything to do with his mom and dad being unheard from?
No. No. That'd be crazy. But I just don't see him killing Mr. and Mrs. Halderson. Like, he had SpaceX. Like, why would he jeopardize something he, would dream of, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're his parents. For Christmas, they got him and his brother matching tool sets. Like, come on.
Okay.
He cooks dinner for them. They have root beer floats together. They play Mario Kart whenever his parents want to.
But on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, the victim found in the woods was identified as Bart Halderson.
It just changed everything. Like, that moment changed everything.
Preliminary autopsy results would reveal Bart had been shot at least 2 times in the back. And there was still the troubling question. Where was Krista?
Krista Halderson remains a missing person, and we continue to ask for citizen involvement.
Krista's coworker, Dan Cronier, ran through all the different possibilities.
Did you, at that moment, wonder, maybe Krista was involved in this too?
It had definitely crossed my mind. Start to wonder, well, why is Chandler lying? Is he covering for himself, or is he covering for perhaps his mother? Is she involved?
But the more investigators looked, it seemed the only person Chandler Halderson was covering for was himself.
You know, he just lied to everybody.
And in his lies, police started to believe they found a motive for murder. For months, he had been telling everyone, including his childhood friend, Alex Cravat, that he was enrolled at Madison College during the 2021 spring semester.
Did you have any idea he had flunked out? He didn't tell you?
No. It was surprising.
Detectives believe his parents had no idea he wasn't in school. They say when his parents questioned him about his transcripts, the computer-savvy Chandler Halderson crafted a chain of emails that seemed to come from the college.
Chandler creates people that work for Madison College and communicates via email with them. You know, Bart's on some of those as well, talking to who he believes is employees of the school.
And do any of those people actually exist?
No.
In June 2021, Bart Halderson called Madison College pretending to be Chandler and got an answer he wasn't expecting.
Said, I don't see that you were admitted in any program.
You said they were, it's the IT degrees in there, right?
No, those are just classes. You might have just took the classes but not be in the program.
Bart learned that not only had his son been lying about that IT degree, but there was no internship with an insurance company either. And remember that big job with SpaceX? Turns out that was just another elaborate lie.
The delusional reality that he concocted, that is shocking to me.
According to detectives, Bart was planning to meet at the college with his son on Thursday, July 1st. Around 2 p.m., Bart, who was working from home, sent his son this text: "I'm ready whenever you are." That text is believed to be the last message Bart sent. 7 days later, Bart's remains were found. Investigators got a search warrant for the Halderson home. No weapon was found there, but a shell casing was discovered in the basement. And several areas inside the house tested positive for blood.
Chandler, middle initial M, last name Halderson, age 23 of Windsor, is now being charged with first-degree homicide, hiding a corpse, and mutilating a corpse.
On July 15, 2021, Chandler Halderson was formally charged with his father's murder.
Chandler is currently being held in the Dane County Jail.
I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, how could you do that to your father?
But where was his mother, Krista? Chandler Halderson had lawyered up and wasn't talking, but someone very close to him was.
She had communicated with him that whole weekend.
That loyal girlfriend, Catherine Mallender, had a potentially damning piece of evidence about her boyfriend on the social media app Snapchat.
She actually consented to a download of her phone.
So that was a breakthrough.
How do you feel about allowing people to track you on social media apps? Join the conversation now on social media.
Chandler Halderson was charged with his father's murder, but his mother's whereabouts were still unknown. Lead detectives Sabrina Sims and Brian Shunk knew if Krista was alive, they needed to find her fast.
At that point, we were hoping for the best. It was one of those things where we just needed to push on.
Detectives turned to Halderson's girlfriend for help. She had given them permission to download information from her phone.
Chandler had lied to her before and had cheated on her before. And so she, would track his location.
Kat had convinced Halderson to let her track his movements using Snapchat, the popular social media app, which allows users to send messages and share their location in real time.
And that was an agreement that, yes, you will have your locations on so I can see where you're going.
Detectives were most intrigued by messages posted early on the morning of July 1st, the day Chandler Halderson and his father were supposed to meet with Madison College officials. Halderson, whose online name was Chazzle Dazzle, messaged Kat at 7:30 a.m. "I hardly slept. I'm sorry, B. Why? I don't know, stuff hasn't really been going well for me lately, so I'm trying to plan for the next thing to, expletive, me over. B, it's gonna be okay. Yeah, I just had a great future planned, and it's falling apart." According to detectives, the tone of those messages worried Kat. So 2 days later, when Kat checked Snapchat and noticed her boyfriend's avatar, that's hubby on her screen, indicated that he was nearly 25 miles from home, Kat saved the image to her phone.
It was a Snapchat screenshot of Chandler, almost 9 in the morning, out by the Wisconsin River.
Detectives Sims and Shunk took us to that location on the river where they had hoped to find Krista.
So where are we exactly? What would you call this area?
It's the Wisconsin State Lower Riverway.
And it's a familiar place to the former high school swimmer Chandler Halderson, close to his favorite swimming hole. This is him at the same place in a photo taken a year earlier, holding a large knife. Law enforcement throughout Dane County searched the wooded area.
And how long was he here?
45 minutes, I believe. Yep. Just keep in mind in July, but it's definitely far thicker than what you're seeing here now.
Still no sign of Krista Halderson, but search teams refused to give up.
Let's go hit one more area, and that was where they ended up discovering the remains.
And what exactly did they find there?
They ended up finding 2 legs cut into different sections.
DNA tests confirmed it was Krista Halderson. The concerned son who had reported his mom and dad missing was now charged with both of their murders. Krista's cousins were horrified.
You couldn't write this. It just wasn't anything that you could possibly come up with in your head.
How do you make sense of it?
We don't. And that's the hard part. We don't have a why.
In January of 2022, at the Dane County Courthouse, Chandler Halderson went on trial for the murder of his parents.
All right, for the jury.
He was also facing charges for lying to the police and for mutilating and hiding their bodies.
Our job is to, over the course of the next couple of weeks, present evidence to show you the path of what we believed happened.
Assistant District Attorney William Brown.
That Chandler Halderson killed his parents, dismembered their bodies, and hid them around southern Wisconsin.
Prosecutors laid out a motive. They say Chandler murdered his parents when his lies were about to be exposed, and that for months he had been trying to hide the truth from them. Among the evidence, those fake email accounts he created.
No one uses a Gmail account as their official Madison College email.
No. And his fictitious internship with an insurance company.
I found no record of that person working for American Family.
Investigators believe the murder weapon was a semi-automatic rifle that had been hidden in a barn at that farm where Bart's remains were discovered.
Good afternoon, sir. Could you please state your name and then spell it out?
Andrew Smith.
And how do you spell it?
Alpha, November, Delta, Romeo, Echo, Whiskey.
The rifle came from this man, Andrew Smith, who testified that he was in the military when he met Halderson online.
How did you meet Chandler Halderson?
Playing video games while I was stationed in Germany, sir.
Halderson had wanted a gun. Smith testified he had no idea what Halderson wanted to do with the weapon. And in June 2021, he gave him that semi-automatic rifle as a gift.
I'm going to give it to someone who might actually appreciate this weapon and take care of it.
And nearly 480 rounds of ammunition.
How did Chandler react when you gave him the gun?
Oh, he was happy.
What do you mean? But how do you know he was happy, or how do you know that?
Because he had a big smile on his face when I had given it to him as a gift.
But the most anticipated witness in this trial.
Good morning.
Would be Halderson's girlfriend.
Did you verbally answer yes to the oath?
Yes.
Who gave police that Snapchat screenshot.
What is that?
Screenshot of Chandler by the Wisconsin River.
What do you make of the prosecution's case against Chandler Halderson? See more evidence at 48hours.com.
Could you please state and spell your name for us?
Catherine Melander.
For 3 hours, Kat Melander sat on the stand, telling the jury about the young man she thought she knew, Chandler Halderson.
Did you go on a lot of dates together?
Yeah, we would grab dinners, have movie dates, just sit at home and watch movies, go on walks quite often.
Kat told the jury that she was working on July 1st when authorities believed the murders happened and didn't see her boyfriend in person that day.
But you weren't with him?
I was not with him.
Did you know that Bart and Krista Halderson had died?
No.
According to investigators, Halderson asked Kat to bring a few cleaning supplies to his home the following day. He told her he had stepped on some broken glass from the fireplace. She brought him a Swiffer mop and a bottle of hydrogen peroxide.
Kat, did you have absolutely anything to do with cleaning anything up or their disappearance?
Investigators say there's no evidence that Kat had any involvement in the murders. They believe Chandler Halderson acted alone. Prosecutors showed the jury police video from inside the Halderson home.
These walkthrough videos will document the home as is.
At first glance, it seemed neat and clean, but test results revealed what appeared to be blood.
Is that all blood that it's reacting to?
This could be blood that it's reacting to, yes. And that it appears that there's been some wiping or cleanup.
For Barbie Townsend, the most disturbing part was when the jury was shown a view of the Halderson home from a neighbor's security camera.
I was talking to one of my cousins. We said one of the images that is going to be seared in our minds is when they showed that video of the window.
Flickering window from July 2nd.
And it was the flickering glow from the fireplace for like hours. That is haunting, knowing what was happening.
A forensic expert testified that more than 200 bone fragments were discovered in the fireplace.
There's a white area in the middle of that burnt.
Based on my training experience, that appeared to be bone.
Halderson's defense attorney, Catherine Dorrell, did not address the bone and blood evidence found in the home, but insisted that did not mean her client was the killer.
Chandler Halderson did not murder his parents. He is not guilty of those crimes.
She reminded the jury there were too many unanswered questions.
What happened to the Haldersons? What happened in that Halderson's home? You just aren't going to know what happened.
Chandler Halderson himself didn't testify, and his defense didn't call any witnesses.
You have to go back and look at everything.
Instead, attorney Crystal Vera closed the case and urged jury to find reasonable doubt. She admits Halderson told a lot of lies, but she argues there isn't enough direct evidence to tie him to the murders.
I guarantee you that the 12 of you that are going to go back and deliberate are all going to have 12 different theories on what happened, and that's a problem. I'm asking you to find him not guilty of first-degree intentional homicide.
Prosecutors had the final word.
This is a first-degree intentional homicide. You cannot shoot someone in the back. You cannot chop them up. You cannot scatter their remains and come to any other conclusion. And there is only one person who did those things here, and that is Chandler Halderson. And we're asking you to find him guilty. Thank you.
It didn't take long for the jury to decide.
Breaking news. In just about a little over 2 hours, a jury has reached a verdict in the Chandler Halderson case.
We, the jury, find the defendant Chandler M. Halderson guilty of first-degree intentional homicide as to Barday Halderson, guilty of providing false information about guilty of mutilating a corpse, guilty of first-degree intentional homicide, guilty of mutilating a corpse, guilty of hiding a corpse.
Guilty on all 8 charges.
I think it was just overwhelming from all the work that we put in on it.
In March 2022, at his sentencing hearing,
Good afternoon.
Halderson, who had been silent during his trial, surprised everyone by indicating he finally had something to say.
Mr. Halderson wishes to make a statement.
Your Honor, I want to take this opportunity to state my intent to appeal my convictions. If there are any lawyers listening and willing to take on my appeal, take a moment to please reach out to me. It's not that I do not have feelings. It's that I was warned to not show them due to the scrutiny of this case. Thank you.
What was your reaction when he had the chance to speak and all he did was ask for a lawyer to take an appeal? What was your reaction?
I was actually disgusted. I just couldn't believe it. Like, you can't even say I'm sorry.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Halderson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
When do you miss him?
Oh, I think about him just about every day.
Really?
Yeah, we're building a pond in our backyard. You know, they would love to see that and love to be a part of it.
Mitchell Halderson, Bart and Krista's oldest son, is now living with an unimaginable loss. Barbie shared a text and this photo that Krista sent to the family just 3 months before she died.
Happy Easter. Yes, the boys and their women. Mitchell is still at Epic Systems and will turn 25 this year. Yikes. Chandler is currently interning with American Family Insurance as an IT administrator, but his other degree, sustainability management, has given him an edge. You see in her text how proud she was of her boys and how 100% completely believing Chandler.
She can't help but wonder what would have happened if Halderson had just been honest with everyone.
If he had just gone and thrown himself at the mercy of his parents, what do you think Krista and Bart would have done?
They would have helped him. They definitely would have confronted him on it, but after the confrontation and the truth-telling would have come the grace. How do we go forward? How do we help you? How do we get your life back on track? They would have helped him.
CBS next Saturday. 48 Hours brings you back-to-back episodes all summer long. Next week, Vanished.
She disappears without a trace.
We thought he might have taken her here. How many miles did you cover? It was hundreds of miles.
48 Hours crime time double feature next Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.